I think it's time we start the meeting. Yeah. So, welcome to today's meeting. And my name is Vijay Mehta. I am the chair of Uniting for Peace, a board member of GAMIP. And as you are aware, today's meeting is about the European chapter. And most of you have got my book, but if some of you haven't got my book, please let me have your address and email address, and I will be too happy to post it to you. That all I want is your postal address. So let me briefly say something about the meeting today, because this is a meeting about some practical aspects of what we should be doing in our European regional chapter. Like, for example, we need members of the board. So I invite any of you, the time and the capacity, and want to take Ministries for Peace project or initiative forward to become a board member of the Ministries for Peace for the regional European chapter. If you got skills, it helps, but all you need is a passion and passion for building peace. And you can be one of our board members. But after saying that, what we do require as board members is someone who have got connections with parliamentarians, civil society, someone who can build a GAMIP European website, someone who can help us with fundraising for events, and like for example, Alicia is doing a summit in October in Colombia. So we hope to do some in London in future. So if anyone can make plans, budgets, forecasts, things like that, and most importantly, if they got contacts with philanthropists, foundation and trusts, it will be very helpful. And of course, we need journalists who have got access to press to give our message, to writing articles, essays of what we are doing, and making our message of Ministries for Peace and building peace go as far as it can. And we do need here members' help to reach the press. And also, we also need someone who can do monthly or 2 monthly workshops or webinars on peace education, culture of peace, non-violence, mediation, training, non-violent conflict resolution, activism for ending structural or gun violence, or wars, trauma, and suffering. So we need to recap. We need board members with or without skills for campaigning, website building, fundraising, communication and outreach, person handling media, press. So all you need is to be a peace activist, a keen supporter of building a peaceful world, and that's all you need to become a board member. So I'm going to start the meeting in a minute, but let me say that the future is very bleak at the moment with war in Europe, or put it another way, war at our doorstep after 75 years of relative peace, either because of European Union or because of having trade with each other, whatever the reason is. I have written a book on the whole scenario of why 75 years of
Oh, yes, I have. Awesome. Cool. I sent you a second email.
And which is, the name of the book is Peace Beyond Borders. And it's, I think I've got still a few copies if anyone like to have them. Friends, why are we today here?
Going on at the same time.
For building ministries of peace, violence, scourge of war, armed conflict, arms trade, very important, and bring peace and social justice. And of course, to gain our goal of having ministries for peace all around the world. Just to say that aim is to have ministries of peace in all countries of the world. But that is really, as I call, a start. Because once you establish this ministry, really the work starts then of building a peaceful world. Okay, with these things, and the last point I want to make is the future, I believe, will only contain what we put in it now. And that's my final remarks. So let's start the meeting. And I've got the agenda. One more request, that there are 5 or 6 speakers speaking today. And after that, we'll have Q&A. So if you have a question for a particular speaker, please write it down. And as soon as all the speakers finish speaking, then we will enter. Maybe an hour, last hour, will be Q&A session. So let's start the meeting. And our first speaker is Paul Maillet. And he's going to speak on how can we build ministries for peace or department for peace. Paul, can I invite you to come? And also, each speaker, please let everyone know who you are and what you do, briefly.
Thank you very much, Vijay. And thank you all. And the 2 new people joining us, if you could put your name and email address in the chat, we'll make sure to be able to get back to you. So I guess what I've been asked to speak about is with regards to national chapters under GAMIP, the Global Association for Ministries and Infrastructures for Peace. And just to recap very, very quickly, what we are about at a very, very high level is the implementation of UN Resolution 53243 regarding cultures of peace, which was signed in 1999, and the subject of high-level forums at the United Nations each year. So we're in the business of implementing this resolution. And to implement it, we have a series of regional chapters, of which Vijay is the head of the European chapter, Alicia in Latin America, Ose is Africa, and I'm involved in the North American one. So from that sort of structure, below each of the regional chapter levels is our raison d'etre. It's about building ministries or infrastructures of peace in the various nations represented in the regions. So to do that, we've established a peace chapter sort of format and guidance. And it's all about guidance here. Nothing is very prescriptive. We have a governance manual which will fill in all the details that you might need to know. And at a very, very high level, it has to be very, very attuned to your own culture, your ethnic makeup, your languages, religions, everything that you have here. So we would expect that a lot of the applications would be different, as they are going to be very specific. We have, which I could share here, a charter. This is just a generic charter of what a national chapter could look like. So it's established in any way you like. What we would do is either provide you with a letter making you or appointing you as either their representative or ambassador or whatever you would like to your specific country with regards to GAMIP. So ideally, if you have a chapter, it's going to be governed by some executive or maybe two co-chairs, a female and a male, and a secretary treasurer. And they would be sort of empowered to coordinate all the chapter activities between any board or general membership meetings or anything like that. So considering the governance manual as some sort of as a guidance. So basically the objectives are very simple, and the whole charter is just one page here. So basically a chapter would provide a coordinating function. You would be developing local chapters possibly underneath. In Canada, we have a national board, and underneath we have various boards in the provinces, or various chapters in the provinces. So as I said here on 3, it's supporting UN Resolution 53243, and COP, Cultures of Peace, MOP, Ministries of Peace, I4P, Infrastructures for Peace, and then the best practices architectures. And pursuant to what you said, Vijay, we offer a whole list of courses that are freely given with regards to peace practices or development or the various issues. And we're currently running a course every third Saturday in Nigeria, for Nigeria and Cameroon, going through an entire peace architecture, starting from the level of the self, the peace practices you need at the peace within and peace between, then at the level of the community with practitioners, how to develop various peace committees and education in communities, and then at the highest level, what would political resolutions look like to establish either a ministry or Department of Peace, and what would it look and what would it do, in terms of advising the government, international affairs, community affairs, provincial affairs. So we have no end of training that we can do in terms of activity. So then at that point, the various chapters can undertake campaigns to promote various bills or resolutions at the government level, or if that is relatively intractable, can start working at the community level, education level, or can do both in parallel. So in some sense, maybe hosting whatever events you like. There is a great opportunity in September during the International Day of Peace on, I believe, September 21st, and until October the 2nd, the UN International Day of Nonviolence, in which we hold workshops, campaigns, conferences, whatever. And this year, every couple of years, GAMIP holds an international conference. And this year is chaired by Alicia, who's on this call, and will be held in Colombia first week or so in October. And you are all very, very welcome to attend. So that's basically it. You can start a chapter with one or two people, and as a country representative or a chapter representative, you have a seat on the national board, which meets every third Sunday, and you'd be more than welcome to attend. And we have a lot to share, but this is an accompaniment relationship. We're all walking in this together. So what we have to share is, we expect some sharing back so that we each learn from each other. And given the wealth of knowledge and experience, I think even on this call here today, is there's an awful lot of things that we can learn from each other. And there's an awful lot of ways that we can help each other. So that's basically what I would say on who we are and forming a chapter, without going into any further details. But if anyone has questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And the governance manual can be sent to you on an email, and very, very easily. So thank you kindly.
Okay, thanks, Paul. And just to say that Paul is very modest. He's one of the best peace professional I have ever seen, met, or dealt with. Okay.
Thank you, Vijay.
Okay, the next floor I'm going to give it to Andreu. And Andreu is a recent connection of mine. But I just have to say this, that you have to drop in a small email and you get a chapter coming back in the next email from Andreu. So I've been thinking that, first of all, we are very fortunate to have you, Andreu. And also, Andreu and Cordula, who is not with us today, she's in Kyrgyzstan, are planning to open a chapter or chapters in Germany and Switzerland. So we are very fortunate to have them. So I'm going to give the floor to Andreu, who is an artist, a sculptor, a writer, and a lot more. So Andreu, the floor is yours. Where is Andreu gone?
Thank you, everybody. Hello, everybody. I'm happy to meet you all today. It's my first evening with you. For you to know, I'm Spanish from Barcelona, a Catalan citizen. I'm an artist, as Vijay said. Thank you, Vijay, for the introduction. And beyond being an artist, I've been also a lecturer at university, off and on, but let's say more off than on. I'm a member of the German Federation of Scientists, to which I was co-opted in 2007, which does not imply that I'm a scientist. I'm an artist who writes science, which is not the same. And I was co-opted because of merits. And I have been a silent diplomat negotiating wars since 2003. I stopped some conflicts which people know about, but don't know how they stopped. So if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them after this evening, not now. And for you to know, I'm very happy to be introduced here and to let you know that Cordula Reimann, Dr. Cordula Reimann, who is a former citizen of Wuppertal, also the city which I'm living in right now in Germany. We live here in Germany since 2012 for political reasons. And Dr. Cordula Reimann lives now in Switzerland. She's a Swiss citizen, so she will be chairing the GAMIP chapter in Switzerland. I do the German one, and she's my co-chair in Germany, and I'm her co-chair in Switzerland. And what we intend is to bring in all our knowledge, all our expertise in peace building, also in, let's say, calming down, soothing down conflicts, and seeing that they get to a level where people can at least talk to each other. And I'm particularly interested in getting peace to be the standard, which implies that peace and peace work become the very normal, which also implies that they are paid and rewarded by society in a very normal way. So for you to know, I've been working on this since the early 90s. So it's now more than 30 years ago that I started working on these issues. I've been writing starting at the age of 14. And what I wrote is also, even though I didn't publish anything, so the only thing that existed were my writings, and I did some email exchange with scientists at the University of Barcelona. That's all. And I would assist to 2, 3, sometimes 4 congresses of social sciences in Spain every year, and that was all. And then suddenly we had the military knocking on our door and saying, Andres, we need to talk to you. And this is when everything started. So for you to know also, I had never a political intention. I was an artist, and I was just writing a systems theory of violence, which explains how violence as a system runs. And this allows then replacing violence with other strategies. And I was doing this based on all the things which I had learned and all the things which we had been discussing for years in the arts. And also my very empirical observation of victims of violence, which I had been working with since the age of 21. Then this all leads to, let's say, a need of adjusting processes, because when people do research, they are very often very far ahead in what they do from others. And what they do not do is because they do research, and there is little communication, as I had it, for example, just with the university in Barcelona and nothing else. What happened is that at some point, the military knocked on the door and said, you need to talk to more people. And what happened then is that I was invited, for example, to assist the NATO General Assemblies between 2010, and I managed several conferences within NATO in which I was then the only silent diplomat in the room, in terms of silent diplomacy and in terms of independency, which means that I was not a member of any association. So also for you to know, I started a process of silent diplomacy with Ukraine, and I have to keep silent about many of my doings until they can be unveiled. And I will also not be very loud about my GAMIP membership in the beginning. I will have to wait and see when it is the right moment to bring this in. But let's say that the most important thing that I wish to contribute to in GAMIP is really thinking about the structures of an economy of peace, because it starts with articulating principles of action, which are, for example, based not on the terms of rights, of human rights, because people do not have rights by birth, even though they get credited these rights. As we see, if I was on a, let's say, lawyer and judges and so a world criminology conference, I would have the lawyers and the judges in front of me telling me that the way human rights are implemented on the planet is so frustrating that these lawyers and judges were thinking of lowering the standard for the world to make it easier for the bad countries to access the level of the better countries, yeah, which is a completely crazy thought. But this is just to tell you how I experienced these issues in terms of, you know, laws and in how these laws are implemented and how people have access to rights. So I prefer the term of responsibility, and I've been acting all my life according to these principles of responsibility. So here I am, even though I didn't want to, and here I am doing politics, even though I didn't want to, yeah, just accepting the situation as it is. Vijay, I don't know if there is much more that I should tell right now, or if this you think is enough.
I think for an opening remarks is enough, but we are having another hour, and I'm hoping all of you attending today will have a chance to speak. So thank you, Andreu, and I'm now going to invite Alicia. Alicia is ever so busy, working, I think, around the clock, preparing for this GAMIP Summit in October in Colombia. And I hope, Alicia, you get some time to sleep every day. So now the floor is yours, and let us know the progress of the Colombia Summit. Alicia, I invite you to speak.
Thank you very much, Vijay. Good morning, good afternoon. Here it is midday in Colombia. All right, my name is Alicia Cabezudo. I am Argentinian Italian, working almost in a global level And I found here an old friend, Arlene Ware. It is here. I'm very pleased to be with him. All right. And I am also the conveyor of the GAMIP chapter for Latin America and Caribbean that we started 2 years ago. And so it is important to explain a little bit, not about me, you can find me anywhere in the web, but about the chapter that we coordinated, and also about the GAMIP Summit that is going to happen in our continent. That means that the Latin American and Caribbean chapter of GAMIP is responsible of this meeting that is going to happen this year. So first, about the chapter. In more or less September, October of 2019, before the COVID, we think that it would be certainly very good and good for the continent, particularly, to have a kind of office or whatever we name, then we name chapter in Latin America. There's no chapters, so we are the older in a way. There is only an international organization with an international government, that is the assembly and the international board, where Vijay was, and Paul from the very start. And we are 3 Latin Americans in that international board. So the 3 only in all GAMIP. So the 3 Latin Americans asked in 2019 to have a chapter for the region. So we started with the region and not with the nations, which was a difference from other chapters. Because as you may know, Latin America generally works at regional level. It is very easy for us because of the language, because of the cultural background, and because we love to work like that. So very many times you are going to find a Bolivian or Uruguayan or a Brazilian that says, from where are you coming? And we say from Latin America. We don't say our country. We say first region. I'm very proud of that. So the 3 of us think first of that. So it is a regional chapter, and it was done then the next year with the start of the COVID, which was very, how can I say, difficult in a way, and from the other way, because of the virtual networks or whatever, it makes us easier. So the 3 Latin Americans opens in April 2020. So we have 2 years now. We are very young, but very fruitful, I think. So we open this chapter. So the first thing that we do that perhaps we have not a reglement, we have not a protocol, we have not rules, we have the general rules. So it is very different, your situation today, when Paul explains that we have all the architecture, etc. We have nothing. I mean, we have only international GAMIP, how it is ruled. And so we go beneath this. We have not another kind of issue. So we have to create a way of governing this in a way. So we are 3 representatives from Latin America, and we are the 3 Argentinians that I had told you. We don't know each other, we don't know. And so we started moving our contacts as Vijay had done. So moving to try to find different organizations, universities, peace research places, and governments, particularly local governments that are very strong in Latin America, and easier to work than the national ones, by the way, in order to make this network. So we started with 16 members, 16 in April 2020. Today we have almost 70 members of the organization, And we cover, in this very moment, 11 countries. So when we so that's the first structure. And then we ask each organization in each country to try to make their own network. So we have a regional way of working, and also we ask our national members, and we have 11 countries, I repeat, we can send all this information to you to try to make their networks, right? So who are our members? Our members are mainly non-governmental organizations related to human rights. Remember that the fight for human rights is very important in this continent for democracy and human rights. So there are very many strong organizations, national ones, that are part of our network. Then peace organizations and conflict resolution organizations, non-governmental organizations, are part of these 70 members. Also, as well, very important for us that I don't see in the European chapter, by the way, are the universities. But then you have to understand that the universities in Latin America have a very particular work, because they are very, very near the civil society. So it is very usual that the university is part, for example, that it is almost impossible to think in United States of Europe, they are part of non-governmental organizations, or they are centers, or they are schools. For example, the School of Education, the School of Social Sciences are part of civil society organizations. So it's easy for us to include them. And we have very important agreements with the universities in order to develop courses. The third members are individuals that are specialists in human rights, mainly in conflict resolution, in participation and democracy, what we call participative democracy. In Europe, you say dialogue democracy. And of course, peace education, that it is my field. I don't tell you that my specialization is culture of peace education, human rights and citizenship. And as Italian, because I'm Italian, I am member of the team of the European Union for civic education, and also from the UNESCO. So that is why I work in the University for Peace in Costa Rica. I am a professor in the Master of Peace Education in order to see. All right, that it is our chapter that we have. So we make agreements with universities, we make agreements with local governments in order to work with them, with national governments or with provincial governments. And also we had very important agreement, I want to tell you, because they are going to be here in the summit, with the Ombudsman International Organization, because the Ombudsman International Organization, they want to work in education. And I have to tell you that one of the strongest phases of the Latin American chapter is education. More than the political, quite difficult because they are changing all the time. No? Now, very happy with the new government in Colombia, of course. Because they open the possibilities of peace and to follow the peace agreements of Havana that they were absolutely, how can I say, cut by the actual government. So we are very hopeful on this. And that is, we can send you all the programs. We have a very good communication system. So we have more or less 15 radio stations that work with us. And we have also television channel that work with us. So we send all the information to them and they spread it, always under on behalf of the name of GAMIP. In this very moment, we have a communication platform with 3 persons, one Colombian, Argentinian, other in Mexico, another in Nicaragua, that it is our communication office, that it is very related to our friends of the International Advisory Board, Paul, Evelyn, etc. They know very well. Very good people, by the way. And then we have volunteers, we have students coming from the universities. What we made a kind of agreement that volunteers helps us from the universities. And so we don't pay them. We pay the officials in the communication platform. After a year not paying, then we start paying. Finally, last but not least, as a good English said, isn't it? Last but not least, the summit, right? I would say, early 2020, we have a very important International Advisory Board meeting. That meeting decided that it is time to have a summit because the last one had to happen in 2019 in London, and it didn't. And so we worked for that, and there we contact Vijay, so I know from them. But that didn't happen. And then we decided, the International Board, to have a summit in another continent. There have been only one summit in Latin America, in Costa Rica. We can send all that information as well about the Costa Rican. And then there were two countries proposed, Argentina and Colombia. So the candidates were Argentina because of our contacts. Besides, I have been living in Colombia during the last 5 years because I was appointed for the monitoring the peace agreements by the International Peace Bureau, that it is my other organization in my heart, and I have been the vice president of the International Peace Bureau. So I was appointed to live in Colombia, and monitoring with my work, the peace agreements are so important in between the guerrilla and the government. And so I came to Colombia, and I was living here since. So I work in all Latin America, by the way, in different universities, but I am set in Colombia. So it was easier in a way to make the easier in a way, in other ways not. I have to tell you, because you never know what is going to happen in this country. But anyway, we decided the International Advisory Board vote for Colombia. So the Latin American chapter was also responsible, because it is our continent and our networks, to organize the summit. The summit is going to happen in the first week of October. We are going to send you, that is why I'm taking note of all, but Paul also, no? Of all the people here, in order to send the program that it had already fixed, and an invitation letter for you. The GAMIP Summit is going to happen. That was difficult to decide because we can use government settings from Bogota, particularly the local government, that it is very, very strong because the Lord Mayor of Bogota is almost kind of president, whatever, or a university site. And then because it is going to happen, the presidential elections, that, by the way, had happened last Sunday, that is to say 2 days ago, finally, the second round. So we decided it was quite difficult to negotiate with authorities because the authorities are going to change, isn't it, Paul? You remember that time. So we decided that it is better to fix with a university, that they are more stable in a way, because we don't know who is going to come in the government. And you know that in Colombia, the government very many times is about peace or not peace, or more or less. So we have to be sure about that. So we have 6 universities that they are offered their sites because at this point they know GAMIP very well and we work with them. But finally we decide a public university. This is very important also in Latin America. I mean, the difference between the private and the publics because of the politics and the ideologies of the university. So it is a very good, well-known public university. I'm going to write the name. It is an important city, capital of a province near Bogota, that it is, I can't speak and talk at the same time. So I would ask Evelyn, that knows very well. Evelyn, if you can write the name of the university, Universidad Pedagógica y Tecnológica de Colombia, UPTC, that it is Pedagogical and Technological University of Colombia. The site, the city is Tunja, in the department of Boyacá, that it is very well connected with a highway from Bogota to Tunja, because Tunja is the capital of the Boyacá state. In the middle of the Cordillera de los Andes at 3,000 meters, a colonial university city, where is the main campus of the university. So this university is the site where the summit is going to happen. All is prepared and they are really fantastic. My friends in the international board knows them. We have meetings with them. We are going to have more, by the way. And all the university is open for the summit. The summit is going to happen in the School of Law and Social Sciences in only one building. But the campus have all the buildings in a North American way of settle the university. So all the schools are inside the same place, but we are going to be in the School of Law and Social Sciences. So the dean of that School of Law is our main ally, as you can imagine. We have meetings with the rector, with the 2 vice rectors, with the deans of all the schools that are going to come, all the schools, not only the law people. And what else? And we have 3 secretaries and all the university platform. So the communication platform, because this summit is going to be hybrid, that it's to be virtual and presential. But of course, we invite you eagerly to come presential because you have to be in Latin America, right? With your body and your senses, and not only by a screen. We recommend that, by the way. So we have all the help of the university from the web platforms. We have the help of the School of Languages. So we are going to have translators from at least the School of Languages have 12 languages. We don't need 12. We need at least 3. So we are going to have English translators, Brazilian Portuguese translators, and French translators. We have asked for Germany as well. That is okay, that is done. We have offices for the secretaries, and we also have something very important, that it is we make a kind of agreement with a tourist office in order to make all the reservations from hotels and tickets and whatever you want to do in Colombia, because some people are going to keep in Colombia after the summit in order to go to Cartagena de Indias, you know, a Mexican colonial city in Colombia. So we have that service as well. The program comes from Monday, October 3 to Thursday, October 6. And in October 6, we are going to move to Bogota city, because the other day, the next day, that is October the 7th, we are going to be received by the Senate and the deputies in the Congress, the Parliament, in Colombian Parliament. So we are going to visit them. Paul Maillet is going to be the coordinator of that in order to make exchanges and address GAMIP and address all the organizations that are going to be with us in that visit in Bogota City. And after that Congress visit, we are going to have a press conference. Also, with all the people that you're invited to come with us and address their own organizations that are part of GAMIP. So GAMIP Summit is going to end after the tourist visit to old Bogota, more or less at 3 o'clock in Bogota City. So it's going to start in Tunja and it's going to end in Bogota, where the university have a house. So probably the press conference, we are not sure. We ask for the Congress house, but if not, we go to the university house in Bogota, because the university house is a pretty house in the city. So that's general program. The program is divided in the day, and this is the last one. Sorry to take so much time, but I think it is important, Vijay. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, specific questions?
Yeah.
Do you have specific questions?
Yeah, in the question answer session, probably people are going to ask you a lot of questions, but wait, because we got one more presentation. Just a suggestion for you, Alicia. When you are in Bogota and you are in the parliament, see if the president, the new president, is free to address the summit.
The new president, you remember, you are asking the new president of Colombia? Yeah.
He's elected.
Yeah. The election was on Sunday, and he's going to swear as president. I don't remember the expression that you use in English. In the moment you come to be president, take place, take what? It's something like that in English. Tell me.
Okay.
That change is going to happen August the 7th. August the 7th. So when we have the summit, we are going to be with the new president.
Yeah.
Right?
Or perhaps if he's free, let him open the summit. Anyway, that's a suggestion. And thank you very much for your presentation. Very inspiring what you are doing. And I'm on your behalf inviting anyone who is free on those dates, please visit Colombia and Bogota and the city where the summit is happening. Okay, let's move on to the last presentation of today, which is an update on the Azerbaijan and Armenia. The fighting, as you are aware, has been going on for decades. And now finally, either with the help or initiative of European Parliament, heads of Armenia and Azerbaijan have met, and they are trying to agree and also implement a peace agreement, which can only be, with all its faults, can only be a good news. So I have got two speakers. One is Ahmad Shahidov, who is from Azerbaijan, and Gulnara Shahinian from Armenia. So I'm going to give the floor to Ahmad Shahidov first, and then to Gulnara afterwards. But Ahmad, when you start, just let us know who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta. Greetings from Baku, Azerbaijan. I am Ahmad Shahidov, head of Azerbaijan Institute for Democracy and Human Rights. We are involving in protecting human rights and building democratic society in my country, in Azerbaijan, as well as recent years, we are dealing with peace negotiations with Armenia as well, because the events in the world, especially the Ukrainian-Russian war, once again show that all we must be mobilized for peace today. First of all, I would like to briefly tell you about the ongoing peace process in my country, in Azerbaijan today. As you know, Azerbaijani lands have been under occupation for 30 years, and despite 4 UN Security Council resolutions, our neighbor Armenia has been illegally occupying 20% of Azerbaijani lands. So the territorial integrity and the inviolability of borders are an important element in all laws, as you know. The border is the door to our house, and everyone protects their home. It is a natural instinct. In short, this occupation ended in 2020, but unfortunately, 30 years of peace talks with Armenia have failed, and the conflict between the parties ended in war. But today, I do not want to talk about the war much, because the painful days are over, and today we are working on peace talks with Armenia. For information, after the 44-day war in 2020, Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan and Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev met in Moscow and Sochi with the mediation of Russia, and in Brussels with the mediation of the European Union. In particular, the recent meetings can be considered very effective, which were also mediated by the European Union. So today, Azerbaijan and Armenia have agreed on a number of fundamental issues. And the most important of these is to refrain from steps that could threaten each other's territorial integrity, inviolability of state borders, and national security. And both countries are very close to signing a lasting peace agreement based on mutual respect and understanding. And both countries have already formed state commissions which will work in this direction. And Mr. Mehta, in all our conferences, we are talking about ministers of peace. I think these state commissions in Armenia and Azerbaijan is acting as Minister of Peace as well. But I wish in future, both states, both countries will establish official Minister of Peace, because both countries need it. So it's clear that the war has just ended, and some people are still living with feelings of revanchism and revenge in Armenia and in Azerbaijan as well. I do not want to blame any side here, because my intentions is to make peace between the sides. But one thing must be understood, that the alternative to peace is war, death, and pain. And we saw and lived it in 2020. Both Armenia and Azerbaijan had lost in this 44-day Karabakh war. And in a war, there is no winner or no loser, I think. Everyone loses. So therefore, I would like a strong peace agreement to be signed between Armenia and Azerbaijan as soon as possible. And again, these two peoples, two nations will have wonderful days together. I'm sure that my Armenian counterpart here, beautiful Mrs. Gulnara, Shahinian, also thinks so, and together we will have a useful exchange of views on what we can do to achieve peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Because peacemaking is not just the job of states and governments and leaders. We must be more active in this matter. And as representatives of civil society, we can make a great contribution. There is work we can do to increase contacts between people of Armenia and Azerbaijan. And also at the end of my speech, I asked Mr. Mehta to organize an additional special conference or discussions to talk and discuss the signing of a peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and what we can do to strengthen peace in the region. I would like this conference to be a live, face-to-face conference, not in the form of Zoom as today's, because and we can organize this conference maybe in London or maybe in Colombia as well, in the framework of Colombia conferences. And for my part, I'm ready to do whatever is necessary, because our desire is peace, and the alternative to peace is war, and we do not want war. Thank you. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Ahmad, for your contribution. And now let's hear from Gulnara. Gulnara, tell us who you are and also what and your message about the peace agreement and what you think. Unmute yourself, Gulnara.
Thank you very much for this invitation, Mr. Mehta, and I'm really very much inspired with people from all over the world speaking about peace and working for peace. This is a fantastic environment to work in. You know, when I was listening to our partner in Colombia, I was remembering that in my capacity as UN Special Rapporteur on slavery, I was traveling all over Latin American countries. And even now, you know, my mandate is finished and I'm writing amicus curiae for workers in Ecuador who are working in plantations and whose rights have been violated. I'm an international lawyer and work in politics. But, you know, I've been a UN Special Rapporteur. I've been chairing a number of UN commissions and Council of Europe commissions on human trafficking and slavery. The issue which takes all the rights from people. And that's why I understand what does it mean peace. What does it mean right to peace? For a person to be protected, for his identity to be protected, for his culture to be protected. And for me, it's really, really critical to establish peace, as Ahmad said. But I think there are lots of avenues to go to the peace. Though I'm critically happy, I'm very happy with negotiations which are taking place now between our presidents and between our prime minister and presidents, and which is very important. But there is also very important, as Ahmad said, communication between civil society. Because even if the agreement has been signed, which has been imposed on the countries, the agreement is not being implemented. Of course, we all feel terribly bad because both sides have lost young generations of people, and this is terrible. But at the same time, if there is agreement signed, we have to follow this agreement in order to go to second step. There is no justice there is no reconciliation without justice. And mothers of people who are still in prison for unknown reasons, even under the pressure of international community to be released. These people are not released. It's already for 2 years. And we still remember this. Every day, people wake up and remember that their sons are there in Azerbaijan and what is happening with them. And I think here is a huge role of civil society to talk to the government, to try to negotiate with the government. And I think maybe one of the meetings, if Mr. Mehta would organize, would be around this, how to make this transitional justice working in reality, not be just a piece of paper. Of course, peace process is extremely important, but every day there are still going on shootings. And there is also a very difficult situation because, you know, irrespective of the fact, and also the war in Ukraine opened up a lot of issues. You know, we started to understand where it comes from and how it comes from. Of course, I agree with Ahmad that, you know, when Ahmad says that we have taken some territories, this is not that. There is a long story to this. And I say why I agree and why I not agree. Because when Armenia declared independence, it was first of the Soviet republics. People of Nagorno-Karabakh also felt that democracy has come and they can regain their identity because they were not under the pressure only of Soviet system, but they were also under pressure of the country that was religiously different. And this was at the age of annihilations. For them, Soviet independence was independence and the building democracy. So these people engaged in a way, and they through the war, of course, this was terribly. As at the very beginning, they didn't get into war. They declared through the referendum their independence. But of course, in the times of the dissolution of Soviet Union, these issues were not accepting. There was arms system, arms control and arms system. They would not allow any country come out, and we had a war. But where I agree, people gained the territory that they lived, but they also gained other territories, which were always said by the first government that they will be returned to the people of Azerbaijan, because these territories did not depend on, did not belong to Armenians and to people in Karabakh. So this was the issue that, to a certain extent, I agree that some territories which were occupied illegally were not belonging, they should be returned. But the ones where people in Nagorno-Karabakh were living for centuries and they were their territories, they should stay with the people of Nagorno-Karabakh. This is another issue. Then later on, there were different situations happened because, sometimes we do not, and this happens also in our country, there are lots of early warning signals that sometimes we do not notice, and international community doesn't notice the early warning signals. Militarization in Azerbaijan and also in Armenia, shrinking of civil society, impossibility of civil society of both countries to work together. These were, quite strong signals, and also impossibility of negotiators to work in the countries. Minsk Group that has been assigned by OSCE was coming to the countries to work, but the governments were not agreeable. For Armenia, Minsk Group is still considered and it's as the most important diplomatic channel to negotiate peace. And we are still looking at Minsk Group to find a viable solution. We do not see this conflict solved unless rights of people of Nagorno-Karabakh will be protected. Because the war demonstrated lots of things. It opened up lots of wounds. And Armenia has been fighting in this war with the armies of the countries that are much more bigger armies than the population of Armenia itself. So this was a really unequal war and a very hard war. And I hate to say that losing or gaining. For me, every life matters. I hate speaking about territories. I am for the human rights of people who are living there. Every day when we feel that these people will be protected in Nagorno-Karabakh, their rights will be protected, their identity will be protected. It matters whatever they want to live. It doesn't matter, it's their decision where they want to live. It's not decision of Armenia. And that is the process of negotiations goes on. If the protection is there, but there have been many signs. Even the second day after the war, when there is a church, the cross on the church had been cut on the territory which has been reoccupied. And how do you leave these people with a hope that nothing will happen after that? It is really very hard. And I think there should be a lot of guarantees from the side of Azerbaijan and from the side of international community that nothing will happen. And of course, there has to be a lot of negotiations in order to have a stronger protection of people in Nagorno-Karabakh. I am for peace negotiations. For 30 years, my organizations have been involved in negotiations, in meeting with Azerbaijani colleagues whom I dearly love and still miss. And I would love to regain a relationship with them. We even 10 years ago, we established International Young Women's Peace Award, and women from Azerbaijan has been awarded by International Young Women Peace Award, and we were very happy that she accepted this award. We try to work, we write a lot and we try to work, but of course we have to strengthen up justices. Peace cannot be built on a shaky word, on a shaky fundament. We have to establish, and civil society has a lot of work to do here. Thank you very much. I think I didn't exceed my 7 minutes, as I promised.
Well done. Very inspiring. Now,
thank you.
Now is the time for all of us participating. And the only thing, please speak. You can speak about any, you can ask questions to Paul, to Andrei, to Alicia, or to Gulnara and Ahmad, Shahidov. And also, if you want to briefly comment on the war situation in Ukraine or anything which is bothering you, please, this is your chance to do it. And let's not forget why we are here. We are here for opening and establishing ministries for peace, all the countries in Europe and the rest of the world. So I'll open up the discussion, and who will wish to have a go first?
Can I also add one thing?
Yeah.
About the conferences? You know, we have 10 years ago, we established International Young Women's Peace Award. And women from, it was in our attempt to support young women from different conflict countries to do their work and to raise their visibility. So we have already women laureates from 27 countries. Alongside with this award, we have established a platform, which is a conference. Every year, politicians from different parts of the world, international organizations, diplomats, civil society are coming to Armenia to discuss issues that matter, that are very important for peace process. And you know, the third is also there is a support platform. So this November, we're trying to organize our 10th anniversary conference. And I'll send out also the agenda of the conference and invitations. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Andrei?
Yes, I would like to let you know that we had a NATO conference on the 4th of June of 2014. I will not unveil, let's say, who said what, but I could, because I have a handwritten protocol about this session, which lasted more than 8 hours. And I have recorded everything that was said in the room. And I wish you to know that at this point of the conflict, the Maidan had already happened, isn't it? On the 4th of June, the Maidan was over, right?
Yeah.
And I hope that everybody knows, or at least assumes, who did the Maidan, isn't it? I mean, you know that some foreign agencies were at work in Ukraine, right? So, according to what I listened to in the room, United States declared war on Russia in that very same session. Yeah, and I recorded and I recorded the very precise words, yeah, the people used. It was not like we will go to war with Russia openly, but it was something like we will track them down, we will chase them down, we will work against them where we can. Russia will have to be the bad guys, and they will have to use everything they have, you know, things like that were told very, very officially, very, very loud. Yeah. Obviously, there was a problem in Crimea. But I think that problem, you know, if we look at what happened in Yugoslavia, or if we look at what is happening right now in Turkey with Kurdistan, yeah, there is similar issues, isn't it? And I think that the issue was solved quite well in Crimea. Yeah. So with this regard, I wish, you know, I wish I could talk more, but I'm a silent diplomat, so I have to be careful. Yeah. But for you to know, it's definitely not the Russians who started this war on the 24th of February. And I was warned by people within NATO months ahead before it started.
Thank you, Andrei. Yeah, I mean, what you say makes sense, because even after the war has happened, they want to prolong the war by giving weapons, military hardware, intelligence services, everything. So I understand and I agree with you what you're saying, that the war has been provoked and prolonged by the US and its allies. And we have to find a way out so that we have a ceasefire and peace to return in Ukraine and the rest of Europe. Because people are suffering with high prices, inflation, they are paying more for gas, for oil, for food, everything. And I've been living in UK for over 50 years, and I have never seen 800 or 1,000 food banks. And this is the second richest country in Europe. So just imagine what must be happening in poorer countries who have got no access to grain and to energy and everything. Okay, we will come back to this again. Who else is Ahmad? Ahmad, you want to respond to Gulnara? You like to respond to Gulnara?
Yes, Mr. Mehta. Actually, I don't want to comment anything, because I think we all both have to be focused on the peace negotiation. But anyway, Mrs. Gulnara mentioned about the guarantees of the rights of Karabakh Armenians. The main guarantee is that today in Azerbaijan, there are 40,000 Armenians, ethnic Armenians living in my county. I have my friends, my neighbors in Baku, in other major cities, and Armenians, and they haven't any problem. We have Armenian church in the center of Baku city. And when we talk about the residents of Karabakh, there were not only Armenians, also Azerbaijanis. So when we talk about the Karabakh people of Nagorno-Karabakh, we should mention not only one nation, both Armenians and Azerbaijan. So I'm sure that Azerbaijan will do its best to implement all rights Armenians and Azerbaijans living in Karabakh, in Baku, in Ganje, in all cities. They will be as a part of our society. Don't worry about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else?
Vijay, before we go out or whatever, pass to another step, I want to address you that in the group now, it had entered our communication official, Mrs. Elias Celedon from Nicaragua, that she is here. Elias, do you want to cheer our GAMIP colleagues, please?
Yeah, sure. Go on, put her on. Yeah.
But in Spanish, please.
In English.
¿Quién? Es bueno estar aquí, los saludo. Un gusto. Gracias, Miss.
Yeah, she's very glad to be here and cheers you. Elias is from Nicaragua, an expert, an excellent communication official for GAMIP Latin America, that you contact her, right? Elias, ¿puedes poner tu nombre y tu dirección de correo para que sepan? Y Communication Official Latin American Chapter, thanks. Gracias, thanks, Vijay.
So you're going to do all the press releases and communication and everything?
Yeah, poor girl. A lot of work.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, who else is like to speak or share? And anyone in here who is thinking or starting a new chapter, a Ministry for Peace chapter in their country, or would like to start and don't know how to do it, and we would like you to get in touch with us. And for example, Armenia and Azerbaijan, I think both of them are in need of because they're having peace agreement and because they are neighbors, because they want to be in good terms with each other. And as Ahmad was saying, they've got a church in Baku, Armenian church and everything. I'm not sure. We Indians and Pakistanis have got the same food as well. So that also unites us because we eat the same food and dishes. So I think Azerbaijan and Armenia both need a ministry for peace. And please get in touch with us and we will guide you how to have one. Okay, who else like to speak?
Katarina, yes.
Yes. Who else like to speak?
Well, hi, everybody.
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
Hi, nice to see everybody. And I'm very happy to see, all these people gathered from all countries together. So, in my opinion, that's a great, thing of doing, to exchange ideas. And of course, it's very beautiful to have this, activated in a kind of ministry. So I saw your question about that, Vijay, and I was just, thinking about if in Holland, because I'm from Holland, if there was already something like that. But we already have a Ministry of Peace, which is hosted by PAX. You must know that. You almost know that. PAX for Peace is quite an organization. So they already have something like that. So I don't know if it's handy because we don't want to, disturb initiatives, to see if there is a link to make, to see if there is, maybe an option that they can host the Ministry of Peace for Holland, for instance. And I was just wondering, what do you think for that?
Paul?
Yes, Katerina, that's an excellent idea. And in the governance manual, there are provisions for partnerships, associations, alliances, any sort of relationship that you wish to have, because basically we're just in the business of a common cause here, of peace by nonviolent means and nonviolence. So if there are existing organizations, you're right, it may be better just to have a partnership with each other and take it from there. And as I said, we have things to share, and I think we have things to learn from PAX. So that would be very, very welcome. Maybe we could make one person, yourself or somebody like that, a GAMIP representative that could be on the board of PAX or a member of PAX or something like that, and vice versa, so that we have a good connection.
It actually is a paid organization through, I think, Minister of Foreign Affairs as well. So I'm not quite sure if they're really independent. So if I would like to have a job, I can just apply for a job and I would be paid. Right. So I wouldn't be independent in the way I act or think. So I'm not sure if that would be a problem for you.
Well, the very simple solution is that once a Ministry of Peace is created, if it's created within the government, of course, the government of the day would appoint the minister. And so that takes it out of our hands. What we do in the background is have a chapter, a GAMIP chapter in the country, which could be 1 or 2 people or 3 people, that would be the representatives. And you would simply speak for GAMIP in some connection to this this organization as a government organization, because even once you've got a Ministry of Peace established, it has to reflect the views and the council of the people and the NGOs and the various organizations in Holland, for example. So very simple. We did create a letter for one person, making an appointment as an ambassador or representative of GAMIP to Holland or to the government of Holland, however you would like to do it.
Okay.
But yeah, we do realize that, you know, as a paid employee, as a government, there is some arm's length between governments and NGOs, and that has to be respected.
Okay, thank you, Paul, for your comment. Alicia?
Katarina, thanks very much to be here. And I am the representative of the Latin American and Canadian chapter of GAMIP. And I want to tell you that there are very many local governments and department governments and the Congress, the parliament here in Colombia, I'm talking from Colombia, that we have already offices and departments, but that doesn't mean that we can work with them. We make projects together, we make education programs together, and very many times these offices, official offices, national or local, comes to ask for us in order to work in projects or programs that we can support ourselves.
Okay.
So,
thank you, Alicia. Andreu? Unmute yourself, Andreu.
Yes, done. I would like to comment again, you know, on the situation we have, because you must understand that every time the military-industrial complex works at any conflict, which they prepare way ahead of time. You know, they have a planning, like all the big companies have. I assisted, for example, in year 2012 to a meeting of the largest companies of Earth in Brussels. And they got me in because I was in parallel in NATO sessions. So they wanted to have my perspective. And these big companies were companies like Panasonic, Sony, Bayer, all of them together, working together, teaming up. And you know what they were doing? The plans for the next 25 years of business.
Oh, true.
Well, believe me, the weapons industries do exactly this. Yeah. And this is why I say that peace must be an economic peace, because if we want this to stop, we have to buy them in. As far as I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, slavery ended because some politicians bought parliament members in United Kingdom, in Britain, and bought their votes. And this is how slavery in England ended. Yeah, that's what I know. So we will have to really think about it. And this is where I hope that, you know, on the long run, we will not achieve this on the short term, but on the long run, we have to get more and more business people involved. And this is very important. In the last weeks, I had the good luck that due to the conflict in Ukraine, some German business people started writing a letter. And this letter is calling other business people to bring money in. Why? Because the military-industrial complex is breaking up the entire market to take as much out of the market as they can, to make sure they fill their own pockets, yeah, and destroying the market of all the others. And this is what business people see. You know, the first businessman approaching me was a businessman doing tourism. He could not send any tourists anymore to Russia and to Ukraine, end of story. So it's bad for his business. So I said, Andres, and he knew me now for many years. So I said, I must start doing something. Yeah. And this is in fact what we have to make people understand. We have to be very practical on this issue. We cannot, you know, we have to do the idealistic, the spiritual work, but we also have to be very practical. And at the very end of the day, weapons manufacturers and weapon traders are people who have to eat and they need a roof. So, if we build a peace economy that is strong enough to include them, it will be less of a problem. But we really have to take this into account.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you, Andreu. Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah. Okay, Paul. Unmute yourself. Unmute.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, just a reminder, if everyone could put their email address, that's fine. One thing I'd like to say is about what we are kind of about as GAMIP and in implementing and creating cultures of peace. I think it's very, very important to realize that as peace professionals, which is hopefully where we are trying to go, and even as ministries of peace, ministries advise the government and ministries are part of the government. So there is that understanding. The chapters would exist outside the government. And then there is the whole problem I see with Azerbaijan and Armenia, things like this. Some of the things I'm working in Sri Lanka right now is the whole idea of your comment, Gulnara, about implementation of peace agreements. And that is not only essential, but it also has its problems in the fact that you are creating a transactional solution to a problem without a relational solution. If you have a relational solution first, the transactional solution just sort of cures itself. Like, for example, it'd be very difficult to solve the Palestinian and Israeli problem transactionally if the people still dislike each other, have animosity, conflicts, those sorts of things. And even as Andreu had suggested, this is a very long-term sort of thing. And then in the guise of what are peace professionals and what do we do, I think it's very, very, we have to be very, very careful about taking sides. I mean, this is absolutely critical. I mean, to be somebody as a peace professional or a Department of Peace or an NGO, certainly you have to be present in the conflict somehow. You have to be impartial. I mean, that's absolutely critical. We bring certain values of human rights, and then we certainly bring communication skills. And I think the primary one that we want to bring is nonviolent communication. The idea that as peace professionals are trying to make peace or trying to work these things stems from the fact that taking positions of accusations, threats, blames, insults, things like that get us nowhere in the longer term. So I would like to make that comment. The other comment about rights and duties. I mean, we do have a particular predisposition to looking at rights, the UN Declaration of Rights or so. But I think it has to be balanced with the Gandhian philosophy of duties and rights. And in Gandhian philosophy, one doesn't so much have rights, but one has a duty to extend those to others. So in that extension to others, one accrues them to oneself. So one has no rights per se in that to be sort of violated. So there is that kind of approach to take in education and in peacemaking that we kind of look at. So that would be my only comment. And I liked your comment about early warning signals, subtle signals, looking at militarization, looking at public opinion, the media. You can get an awful lot from subtle signals as to what's happening. So thank you very, very much, everyone. And certainly to join a group, to create a group, to be associated with this board here, you have lots of options. Thank you kindly.
Thank you. Okay, Evelyn. Unmute yourself, Evelyn. Yeah.
Thank you all very much for your amazing insights and work. I was hesitant to bring up the issue of peace professionalism, but I think following on from the last few comments, I will say that amongst other things, what we are trying to work towards is professionalism in the peace field, in the sense of ensuring that folks, like in any other profession, are ready to apply what it is they intend to do. And we have a mix of very good intentions and also very good technicians. And what we are suggesting, that to be effective in this work, as Paul says, where we practice impartiality and at the same time need to get some very serious work done, we need, like other professions, we believe, to have some basic understanding of what it is that is effective in peace building. And we have worked a long time to translate Galtung's concept of a peace professional working from the mind and the heart, i.e. with skills and values, to put that into a practical framework that says, what does that mean for the individual peace worker? And I would love to have an opportunity with anyone that's interested to explore this further. It is not to create an elite situation of peace professionals. It is to insinuate into everyone that works in the peace field that one needs to have more than good intentions and one needs to have more than technical capabilities. You need both, and employers and communities need to understand that those who are working on behalf of peace and on behalf of them are in fact bringing to the situation an ability to put these skills into practice in the way that does in fact create peace rather than inadvertently lead to more conflict. I'm making a lot of very broad generalizations because of the time constraint, but thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you, Evelyn. Okay, Andre? Yes?
Yes, thank you. I just would like to add something to Evelyn, which is very simply that, you know, one of the things which I do, for example, when I'm in sessions mediating peace, is I start from the point of view of the weakest in the situation. Let's say that the situation of the weakest in the negotiation is always the lowest standard to which we can go and where it's easiest to make the agreements. Yeah? So it's, for example, this is one issue. And then the other thing which I would like to just put a word in for us to have it in mind is, you know, because Cordula is not in the room, otherwise she would do it, you know, which is to talk about collective trauma and to know that the collective trauma syndrome is a syndrome that, for example, channels rational production. Its rational output is always limited by the emotional bias. And this is something that if trauma is in the room, it also distorts the conversation. And we have to cope with that distortion and with the background of it. Okay, so far.
Thank you. Is Alan gone or Alan is in the room? Alan where? From New Zealand. I think he's gone. It looks like he's gone. Okay, anyone coming in? Okay, Barney, are you here?
Yes, Vijay.
All right. Tell us about the meeting you just came from.
Oh, right. Right, it's the campaign for a campaign against arms trade. And they were talking about the direct action they were taking regarding companies in Britain that are providing components and parts for aircraft in Saudi Arabia that are involved in the bombing campaigns in Yemen. That's one thing they were talking about. I raised a question about, because one of the people on the panel was a lady called Katie Fallon, who's the sort of the parliamentary, she's the parliamentary side of things. And I raised a question about the fact that our parliament, I mean, if you ever go on the BBC and watch BBC Parliament, you'll find that there's absolutely no there is no opposition. I mean, when Jeremy Corbyn was trying to become Prime Minister, you know, there was a voice speaking against the government, but now they seem to be, the Labour Party and the Conservative Party seem to be, you know, like a bipartisan sort of agreement, you know, and my question was, what can we do about this? How can we get voices in? I want to give an example. In the European parliaments, there's a couple, they're Irish. Her name is Claire Daly and her partner, Mick Wallace. And she has been speaking out in the European parliaments against, you know, she's saying the answer to war is not more, you know, about all these arms shipments going into Ukraine. She said the answer to war is not more war, it's peace. And one of the guys who's a Hungarian representative was laughing at them and walked out of the conference and gave the Nazi salute as he walked out. And this is all on, I've got this on video, on film, on video. So at least in the European Parliament, there is this voice speaking out against all this, but we don't seem to have this in the British government. So my question is, what can we do about this? I mean, Fabian Hamilton, who's one of our, you know, very supporters. We've done I remember with Vijay, we went to Bradford for a conference, and Fabian was there. And Fabian is would have been the Minister for Peace under Jeremy Corbyn, had there been a Jeremy Corbyn government. But you know, I don't even see him in government standing up and challenging these people. So Vijay, that's my question to you. What's going on in there, and what can we do about it?
Right. Thank you, Bernie. You very rightly say, Conservatives and Labour, as far as the war is concerned and peace, there is no difference at all, because the Labour leader, Keir Starmer, is as eager to give help, weapons and troops to Ukraine as Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, is. And because of his policy of war, and also, by the way, he is in favor of having more nuclear weapons.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So because of his policy, although Labour shadow government has got a Minister for Peace and Disarmament, who is Fabian Hamilton, and is a good friend of mine as well. But he's very silenced now. You can see he doesn't go and speak about peace or against war in Ukraine or anything in the events happening in London and elsewhere in the country. The reason is, he knows if he says something, the next moment he will be sacked. So it's a big problem.
Yes.
And very right. The peace movement has got a duty to do something to get over this situation. Of course, the Green Party of UK and the Liberal Democrats of UK have got a different opinion about it. But unfortunately, Green Party has got one member of parliament in over 650 members. And same goes for Lib Dems, they have got a few members. So their voice is relatively not very loud and cannot be heard. But the only saving grace is we should get in touch with Scottish National Party, SNP.
Yes, yeah.
They're very much against war, very much against Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
For their own reasons, because they are not allowing them to have another referendum for Scottish independence. But that's a completely different issue.
So, Vijay, do you know Ian Blackford then?
Yeah, well, sort of, you can say.
Yeah.
Like I know Fabian Hamilton, I don't know him that well. But as I said, it will be a worthwhile effort to write or to Nicola Sturgeon, the SNP head, who is the First Minister of Scotland. Yeah, it will be worth writing to them. I remember those days when Nicola Sturgeon used to be on the peace march with us. But that I'm talking here of 30 years or more.
Yeah, yeah.
She was absolutely against nuclear weapons.
Yes, I remember, yeah.
You remember that? And she walked with us in Aldermaston and all the naval dockyards and all things. When you are in authority, you change overnight to something else. Okay.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you.
Andreu. Yeah, let's hear from Andreu.
Thanks. Just for you to know, in 2019, we had an online conference. We were just 15 people around the globe, including Jamie Shee, who asked me into the conference. Jamie Shee is a British citizen, isn't he? And he's a Secretary General of NATO, isn't he? And Jamie Shee is the one who led then a discussion with us about fake news. And you know, the main sentence in all of the discussion was told by Jamie Shee, and it was a sentence in which he told that the most important thing was that media would produce news in a way that would support the discourses and the narratives of the elites. He said this very clearly. Yeah. So everything else is fake news. If you try to talk for peace in Germany, you're going to be hanged at the next tree.
And I thought, Andreu, they could have learned, they learned a lot during the Second World War and First World War. And this new Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, he was quite reluctant to send troops and weapons to Ukraine. And I don't know if he's changed his position and what happened.
Well, I would say that we have here in the room Heinz-Dieter Jopp, who could say something about it. Heinz-Dieter, I don't know if you're listening and if you could raise your hand maybe. But I certainly would say, you know, that Olaf Scholz is reticent, he's holding back. Then he makes some desperate move, like jumping in and putting 100 billion euro into the pockets of armament industries, you know. You know that when Olaf Scholz said that he would put 100 billion euro into the Bundeswehr, next morning at 8 o'clock, the representatives of the armament industries, the representatives of the companies which are in Düsseldorf, you know, just 30 kilometers away, which is Rheinmetall, were in the office of the Green Minister of Foreign Affairs, Annalena Baerbock, and saying, hello, here we are, what can we offer? Yeah, I mean, this is the way it runs. Yeah, politics and the armament industries are very much tied. So to be honest, with Olaf Scholz, I have, you know, a very difficult relationship.
Understand. Joe Barry, would you like to add anything to the discussion? Joe, are you still there? Unmute.
Yes, I'm here. I've got COVID, so I'll just start coughing. So I'm here to listen. So I'm not going to speak, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else? Wish you early recovery, quick recovery. All right.
Hello.
Okay. Okay.
Hello, Vijay.
Hello, how are you? Yeah, speak. Yeah, go on.
Sorry I'm late, everybody. I'm in New Zealand, and I just wanted to say hello and send our warm greetings. And
tell everyone who you are.
My name is Liz Remiswal, and I'm the National Coordinator for World Beyond War in New Zealand, Aotearoa, and also the Vice President of World Beyond War. And so I met Vijay at our conference in Limerick a couple of years ago, and also at the International Peace Bureau meeting in London. It was 2019. So we're all very hard to make change, to make progress in very, very difficult times. And I want to thank you all for everything that you do. We are organising a peace wave this weekend. Have you talked about that already, Vijay, the peace wave?
No, please.
No.
It's a combination of the International Peace Bureau and World Beyond War. It's a 24 hours international peace wave starting, and I'll put a link in the chat. So if you can join that, and just it's an expression. It's part to do with the Madrid conference on no to NATO, and the dangers of NATO and the world getting involved in NATO, particularly even South Pacific countries like us. Our Prime Minister is going to Madrid to talk to NATO partners, and it's very, very concerning because it's just progressing the wars. So that's one of the things that we're doing. We're also doing the Cancel Impact campaign and trying to, working with my colleague Greg Southern on the Ministry of Peace idea as well. And I see that Paul is here. Hello, Paul, and Evelyn. So anyway, that's about all from me.
Good. We will like to participate, Paul, Evelyn, myself, all here, to see how we can revitalize your project or initiative of Ministry for Peace for New Zealand. So we should get in touch with each other and organize a special program to see how we can go a step further to do that. Okay. Thanks very much, and nice to see you again. Yeah. Okay, anyone else like to come in the last 8-9 minutes? Bernie, you'd like to come in?
Yes, please. Yeah. This is a question for everyone. Okay. So anyone who wants to have a go at this one? Now, I'll try and keep this brief, all right, because it's quite a lot of information I could give about this. Now, it's regarding the treaty for the prohibition of nuclear weapons. And I went on the conference today online in Vienna, and I spoke about that at the beginning of this meeting. Now, on the ICANN, the International Campaign for the Abolition of Nuclear Weapons, I mean, they got the Nobel Peace Prize in 2017 for setting up this initiative. Now, on their website, they've got an amazing graphic which you can play around with, where you can go through all the regions of the world and find out which countries have, one, declared themselves nuclear weapon-free states, and two, signed the treaty. Now, the interesting thing is that of all the European NATO states, there's one state that has signed the treaty and declared itself a nuclear weapon state, and that is North Macedonia. So I was thinking, how come North Macedonia is a member of NATO? So it's obviously, you know, if you're a member of NATO, you're signed up to Article 5, which I hope you're familiar with Article 5 of NATO. All right. It's basically that you have to join in. If there's going to be a war, you have no option but to join in with it. All right. So what a suggestion I had was that if North Macedonia has declared itself a nuclear weapon-free state and has signed the treaty, then by inference, one could suggest that it would not abide by Article 5. It would act in a sort of like a conscientious objection to not abide by this article if the NATO leadership decided that they wanted to do something irresponsible and start a conflict. So my question is this, I'll keep this quick, I'll try and get to the point of this now. If North Macedonia, out of all these European countries, can do this, why can't the others? Why can't all the countries in Europe declare themselves nuclear weapon-free states, sign the treaty, and I mean, all the Latin American countries, there's not one Latin American country that is a nuclear weapon state. I've checked it on the ICANN website. Now, there's quite a few of them are yet to sign the treaty, but there's not a single Latin American country that is a nuclear weapon or even hosts nuclear weapons on behalf of the United States. So the hope I harbor in my heart about this is that through, it's what we do, Vijay, through dialogue, through talking, through networking with each other, through putting these ideas out, that we could encourage even more countries. Now, just imagine if the whole of Europe signed the treaty and declared themselves nuclear weapon states, then it's quite possible that the NATO alliance could fall to pieces, which is would be a dream of mine should that happen. You know, because I don't know about you, but I'm a very anti-NATO person. I don't think NATO is a benevolent organization. I think it's a great menace to the world. So there you are. That's basically all I want to say.
Thank you. Anyone want to have a go at it? Answering Bernie?
But Liz, what do you think, Liz?
Well, I could offer a comment.
Go on.
Paul.
NATO is a kind of a funny organization in that, yes, Article 5 that states attack on one is attack on all. It's very, 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 very fragile in its implementation. I mean, there are many, many countries in NATO which do not host nuclear weapons, American nuclear weapons. Matter of fact, it's a relatively small number that actually do. And that nations are not compelled to do anything. When NATO decided to do this out of area operations in countries like Afghanistan or Iraq, they can choose what they want to do. If they want to do medical, humanitarian aid support, in other words, the German application in these conflicts was very, very different from American or Canadian or whatever. So it is an alliance, but the members do have an awful lot of latitude as to what they want to do. They can stand up, they can sign the TPNW. It's not a problem. And even though NATO may not like it, there's never been a case of anybody being thrown out of NATO. I mean, it's too important to NATO to have members rather than to be coercive in almost any way whatsoever. So as we see Sweden and Finland coming online, I mean, they can come online with all sorts of conditions and caveats. I mean, in NATO, often the saying is it's more important to have flags than it is to have, much behind it. The U.S. may declare a multinational organization, a multinational operation, and may have countries in there that have 5 or 6 people, and then they declare it multinational. So this thing swings in all sorts of directions. And
okay, thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
Okay, Andreu?
I just wanted to say something about what Bernie introduced.
We only got 3 minutes left.
Yeah, right. I think that Netherlands has a special role because I'm not sure. I think that they are not signatories, but how is it called? There is a second option they can have. I think Holland, so Netherlands has it, and I'm not sure if Germany has it too, which is that they are muted or silent assistants, which means that when the meeting is there, they are in the room, but, you know, and they could say something, you know, maybe eventually, but so these countries need a little push. And the little push obviously has to come from the bottom. Yeah, it's a bottom-up issue, okay? And poor Olaf Scholz, what is he going to say, you know, with so many Germans eating bratwurst and drinking beer? They're not caring right now, right? They have other problems. They have, for example, Ukrainian refugees, which they have to host. And, you know, there is a lot of discussion going on. So it's all, I guess, you know, a matter of discussion. In Germany, there was a time, there was decades where people would go into the streets and, you know, make real strong activities against Pershing II and other nuclear weapons. But all this stopped. And it's a mystery. We do not know where they are, the pacifists in Germany. They seem to vanish. Yeah, it's like some years you find, you know, when you go into the woods, you find some mushrooms, and some years you don't. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Okay. My last work of today is to thank you all for your wonderful, vibrant comments and contributions. And as we have all discussed, our work still continues, our peace work continues, and we hope to meet each other very soon. And bye-bye, and take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vijay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Vijay. Lovely to see you.
Bye, everybody. Bye. Thank
Bye,
you.
Bernie.
Bye-bye, Lilias. Bless you all. Bless you all.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Vijay. Thank you, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.